Thank you for joining us. I have my two made in China Norinco AKs. I'm going to do a quick review on both of them. Again, these are made by Norinco from China, and these are two post-band examples. The top rifle is a MAK-90, bottom rifle is an NHM-90, both post-band Chinese AKs, very similar, just some very slight differences between the two models, but pretty much identical. These guns both came in the post-band configuration, and for the most part that means they all came in with a thumb hole stock, no threaded muzzles, no bayonet lugs. So pretty much all the evil features that you generally see on your typical AK-47. Those features were lacking in these post-band Chinese AKs. For the MAK-90 and the NHM-90, these guns were imported between 1990 through 1994. They were banned from importation into the United States by the Clinton administration during the assault weapons ban. So they haven't hit our shores since '94, and you're either going to find these in the used gun market or perhaps find a new old stock model from a collector or a seller. So I'm going to show you an example of one of the thumbhole stocks that I took off from one of these guns. This thumbhole stock actually came off directly from the MAK-90, which is the top gun. So LL, can you bring it out here? So that was a very typical thumbhole stock that came with most of your MAK-90s and your NHMs. I personally find them really ugly and not comfortable, but there's a minority out there who actually prefer these thumbhole stocks over the traditional AK pistol grip and buttstock. I'm going to go ahead and give you a rundown of what I did with these two guns, what parts I used to deban these Norincos, and what gunsmith services I utilize as well. So I'm going to show you some before and after photos of how these guns look like. This is my NHM-90, and so the story behind this gun is I purchased it back in 2006 from my friend's dad, and this was back when I was a college student. So he sold it to me for $350, and that included the entire rifle, a 30-round Chinese magazine, 2 5-round or 10-round, I don't remember, magazines as well, a 75-round Chinese drum, and also 300 rounds of Chinese steel core 7.62x39 ammo. So if you look at the front end of my NHM-90, is that you'll see that it's a bit different compared to what you're going to expect from a factory post-band AK. So at the front here, that's a slant brake. That's from Polytech. Front sight base is a Bulgarian Type 3. It's their version of the AK-47. And for the gas block, that's also off of a Bulgarian Type 3. And one thing you have to know is that for both the NHM-90 and the MAK-90, if you decide to utilize a front sight base or a gas block that has a bayonet lug or this cleaning rod channel, as you can see on this one, you will have to use parts, front sight base and a gas block, off of an AK-47 variant. You cannot use parts from an AKM. And the reason why is that the Chinese AKs had maintained the AK-47 profile barrels, which is actually thicker in diameter compared to the ones found on the AKM. So if you try to grab like a Romanian Wasser front sight base and a gas block, you're not going to press it on a Chinese barrel. You're going to have to find something like a Bulgarian Type 3 or some other AK-47 variant takeoff for it to fit on a Chinese barrel properly. So just to give you some close-ups, you can see that with the Bulgarian Type 3 gas block and front sight base, that cleaning rod slides right into the retainer and the channel perfectly. Again, these parts have to be pressed on. It's a very tight fit, and then you're gonna have to hammer in the pins. There's 2 pins on the front sight base and 2 pins on the gas block. And one unique feature about the NHM is that they came factory threaded at the muzzle. So for almost all of the MAK-90s I've handled, they did not come with a threaded muzzle from the factory. But for the NHM-90 and the NHM-91, they came with factory threaded muzzles and with a muzzle nut that was tack welded on. So if you were to break off that tack, you'll see and find factory threads, which is nice. So you don't have to pay for the extra labor to the smith to have him thread your muzzle, or you don't have to buy the die and thread it yourself. But so I had 2 Rivers Arms in Oklahoma City refinish my gas block and the front sight base. They hot glued it to match the rest of the barrel, and they pressed it on. They pressed it on, put in the 4 pins, nice and super tight. It's not going anywhere, and I think it just makes the gun look a little bit more complete, a little bit more like how it should look. One other thing about the Type 3 gas block, the front sight base, is that it's open, has an open hood. The majority or almost all of your Chinese front sight bases are going to have a rounded closed hood. So if you want something that's 100% clone correct, you're gonna have to find a set of takeoffs from a Chinese AKs or a Type 56. But for me, it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to give my NHM more of the original look, but not 100% clone correct. And I think it just looks more complete with the cleaning rod intact. And for the handguard, it's all original Chinese. I did refinish it with some amber shellac, so it gives it a little bit of some water resistant protection. One thing that you might be able to see are these slight bubbles, and how this happened was, these wooden handguards, they're not really good at dissipating heat, and the AK gets really hot, after a day of shooting. And this particular gun gets, it got so hot that the shellac started to bubble, to burn off. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is this will happen if you tend to shoot a lot from your Chinese AK. And I've put in over 10,000 rounds through this gun since I bought it back in 2006. So, it's lasted for a while, but You can see some bubbling here, but overall, I mean, you know, it does its job. So moving on to the main part of the receiver, you can tell it's your typical Chinese rivet patterns. It's a 1.5 millimeter thick receiver compared to 1 millimeter thick receivers used on your typical stamped receiver AKM. So it's very robust. And one thing about the NHM-90, especially with mine, is that the bolt carrier, it's blued. Most of your MAK-90s, it's just gonna be in the white. It's like a raw finish. But with a lot of the NHM-90s that I've handled, they came with this smooth blued bolt carrier and bolt. Now, for the pistol grip and the buttstock, again, original Chinese, Polytech. I bought the buttstock and the pistol grip back in 2007 from Cope's Distributing, and the company's no longer there. Back when I bought it, you can buy a complete set of Chinese furniture, pistol grip, buttstock, and hand guards for $120 shipped. Now you go on Gunbroker, you can find the same set going for anywhere from $400 to $600 for a new old set of Chinese furniture. But when I bought it, you know, it was all brand new. Again, I put like this shellac finish on it, and over the years, you know, I've put in a lot of like scrapes and dings and whatnot. This gun's a shooter. None of my guns are safe queens. I buy my guns and I shoot them. Doesn't matter what model it is. You can give me a Polytech Legend, and I'm gonna shoot it the following weekend. You know, I love shooting. I love to enjoy my guns for, you know, what they are. So yeah, it has the checkered pistol grip and your standard Chinese style buttstock for the stamped AK. Factory trigger, very smooth, probably, you know, some of the best factory AK triggers out there. I don't feel any trigger slap. It's just a very smooth, crisp pull. And one other thing I want to note is that the Chinese AKs, especially the NHM series, they have a really nice, smooth, high polished, not really high polished, but a nice smooth blued finish throughout the entire gun on all the steel parts. The receiver, dust cover, even on the barrel, it's just a really nice blued finish. Better than most, if not all, of the other imported AKs I've handled. Certainly much better than what you see on all the Arsenal AKs. Just a really cheesy paint finish that chips off. Even if you apply some acetone or maybe perhaps some solvent, it's going to melt away that Arsenal paint finish. So if you get a chance to handle any of the other Chinese AKs, you'll learn to appreciate the finish on their guns. And what's really surprising is that some of these Chinese AKs, they're just really well made. We, for the most part, you know, Americans associate with made in China products as cheap and poor quality, but these old AKs that they used to import into the USA are surprisingly very well made. Some of the best that I've handled out of the imported AKs. You know, I've handled Arsenals, all these different Romanians, Egyptian, Yugoslavian, Hungarian. And I would say the AKs are probably some of the better ones out there. The NHM field stripped. Very simple, just like any other AK. So this is the bolt from the NHM-90. It has a free-floating firing pin. And it has like this this purple finish. So it's not in the white like most of your MAK-90. Again, you can see that chrome-lined chamber. 1.5mm thick receiver. Simple gun, but just super reliable. Easy to field strip. So very simple to operate, just like any other AK variant. So LL is going to go ahead and do a quick demonstration. Okay, and go ahead and pull that trigger.